Representative Suozzi from New York.
Mr. Clapper, thank you so much for having me here today. I'm Tom Suozzi from New York's 3rd Congressional District. Today's Ash Wednesday, when members of my faith are reminded that from the dust we came and to the dust we shall return. We are all inextricably linked to our earth, the air, the land, and the water, the original divine creation. Last night, President Trump said he wants to work together with members of both parties to, among other things, quote, promote clean air and clean water, close quote. Unfortunately, his actions thus far on the environment have not matched last night's rhetoric. In fact, he's proposed slashing the EPA's budget by 24% and has repeatedly questioned the legitimacy of climate change. All of this belies a desire to be a good steward of our earth. Many of us are concerned about whether his regulatory reform efforts will gut important protections of our environment. I agree with the president that we should try and eliminate regulations that no longer make sense and others that simply create too much bureaucracy, red tape, and delay. But the president, in a quest to appease the oil, gas, and chemical industries, cannot abandon our responsibility to be faithful custodians of God's creation. Pope Francis said in his encyclical Laudato Si, we must, quote, we must forcefully reject the notion that our being created in God's image and given dominion over the earth justifies absolute dominion over other creatures. For roughly the past 11,000 years, we've lived in our own Garden of Eden, where the planet has been able to buffer and balance human activity. Now, and especially since the technological revolution, humankind's dominion over our planet has dramatically accelerated our potentially dangerous influence on the Earth's sanctified balance. From Flint, Michigan, to my district on Long Island and around the world, water is increasingly contaminated and scarce. Wildlife and biodiversity is threatened, and as Pope Francis said, because of us, thousands of species will no longer give their glory to God by their very existence. Our actions have played an overwhelming role, from the death of coral reefs to acidification of our lakes and oceans, from rising tides, prolonged drought, and violent storms from Sandy on Long Island to Katrina in New Orleans. There are devastating weather events in every corner of the globe. It's important to note that the 40 days of Lent refer to Jesus' trial in the desert and the Israelites' 40 years of wandering. It also recalls Noah's 40 days and nights during the flood, which symbolizes the destruction of creation due to humans' failure to adhere to God's instruction. As we enter the 40 days of Lenten renewal and reflection, let us recommit to our duty to tend and care for all of God's creation.
Thank you very much, Representative Suozzi.